People in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Once again, great to have you in studio with us today. We're going to be talking about opioids today with Ivan Anderson. He's with MATForce, the Speakers Bureau, and also the Sonoran Prevention Works. And we'll talk about the Sonoran Prevention Works towards the end of the show. But Ivan's here today to talk about the opioid situation.
Yes.
Across the country, but mostly we're looking into the state today. And the governor brought out all kinds of information. The governor back in early June, and we did a story on this, the governor issued an executive order to increase the reporting of opioid-related data, allowing state health officials to have information within 24 hours. Health officials were saying, you know, we get this information, we compile it, it takes about a year for us to get this information, so it's not doing us much good to see kind of what the heartbeat of Arizona is when it comes to opioids. We're talking about deaths.
Right.
Deaths as well as overdoses, babies born addicted to these, right?
Right.
Male, female, and just kind of what's the trend in the state. So since that declaration, a lot of information has come out, and it's a huge number. It said last year in 2016, 790 Arizonans died from an opioid overdose. And we're going to talk about what opioids are. Ivan's going to give us all that. As of June 15th to August 17th, if you go to the azdhs.gov website, they actually have a real-time opioid data ticker, so to speak. It says there have been 263 suspected opioid deaths in just that 1 month time frame. That has got to be pretty alarming, but very eye-opening and helpful as well.
Let me back up just a little bit.
Sure.
You touched on the governor's declaration. The information they were talking about having to wait a year to get all that information was just how everything was being reported. Because the governor did a declaration, an emergency declaration for opioids, now all EMS agencies, all pre-hospital agencies, all ERs have to fill out a report and admit and file it, which we just do through the internet, obviously, when we have a patient we suspect has an opioid overdose. And that's just, and because that's in place now, the information is like right now, and there's no waiting a year. They're getting information from a patient I had last week. I work for the Verde Valley Fire District as a paramedic, and last week I had an suspected overdose and had to file the report, and it went right in with my pre-hospital care report, and that's basically within 12 hours of the call that was posted with DHS. So that information is now really fast.
And that's going to be really helpful for the state too, to find out exactly what's going on.
Because this whole situation is obviously, the numbers bear out, is ridiculous and getting completely out of hand.
It's out of control.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, which tends to be kind of the case with just about every drug. You see them rear their heads, we hammer down on them, and then something else takes its place. We knock that one down and something else takes its place. And it's like this, I've noticed it in the years that I've been doing the news too, that where we'll have a bunch of meth stories. They fade out because there's a huge crackdown. Then heroin pops up. And then we'll do a bunch of heroin overdose stories, and there's a bad batch in the area, this and that, and then heroin fades down. Then we're on to prescription drugs, and prescription drugs become a real issue, and then they go back down. And now I'm noticing that meth has kind of circled back around again. And I think the people using meth or selling it or transporting have forgotten that it's an automatic 5 to 15 years in prison first time. And if you've been convicted of it before, it's more time. But the first time, if I'm driving down the road and I've got meth for sale in my car and I've never been arrested for a charge of methamphetamine, that's 5 to 15 years automatically in the state of Arizona, which is a great law. Sheila Polk got that one rolling. So that's a good one. Let's get to the opioids. What are opioids?
Okay, opioids, there's basically, we're going to define it as two separate things. One is medications, so pain medications like morphine, hydrocodone, Oxycontin.
These are painkillers you're talking about there.
Exactly. They're called narcotics, but they're painkillers, pain relievers. They are medicines that have an opium derivative in it, whether it's synthetic or from the plant itself or whatever.
Okay.
Heroin is also an opioid, but it's an illegal street drug, and it's straight opium. It's made from opium. The thing is that when you have the opioids, you have to kind of separate the two with your patient or your deceased person, whoever it is, and decide or figure out, if you can, through their history, what their drug of choice was. Was it a painkiller? Was it something they were on, that they were prescribed and then started taking and abusing? Did they start with opioids, with pain meds, and then move on to heroin, which has been a very, very common trend, not just in Arizona, but across the country, because we were having an issue with pain medications being abused, doctor shopping, pharmacies not knowing what pharmacies across the valley were doing, and patients were going in and getting prescriptions filled just, one after the other. And that has been really curtailed in the state through the legislature. MATForce was pretty big involved in that in Yavapai County specifically. But because of the difficulty we've made it to get, or that the state has made, to abuse prescription medications now through communication with doctors and pharmacies, heroin is back. And heroin is also cheaper.
You guys, you see that cycle, don't you? You see that cycle where we really crack down on something, the next one comes up. Do we have a plan in place? Do you know, if we have a plan in place, not to put you on the spot, do we have a plan in place where, okay, so we're cracking down on these opioids right now. Do we have a plan in place as well to make sure, I guess, looking at a crystal ball, say, okay, what's the next one coming? What's going to be the next big drug?
To be honest,
it's difficult to do something like that.
Just the fact that the meth now is back and so big again, to me is surprising. Not completely, because I've seen it myself in my career with like ecstasy. Ecstasy just ebbs and flows. You'll see it, then you don't. Then you see it, then you don't. Meth, I thought we were really going to kind of get a handle on, because we had done so much, like you said, with the prosecutions and with making it difficult to get pseudoephedrine and stuff like that. And it's still coming back, and it's mostly coming from across the border. It's not being made like it used to be as much in the state or in the U.S. It's just being brought in. But heroin, as far as where it's going to go, I think there's going to be, the education will be huge, getting the public on board to understand this. And to be honest, it is so epidemic right now, you're going to be hard-pressed to find anybody that has not been touched by this somehow with a family member or a coworker or something like that that's having an issue with opioids. And so I think the information's out there. What we're going to do about it is the big thing, not necessarily that, oh, no one knows we have it. The question is what we're going to do. And there's things to do, but opioids are probably the hardest hardest drug, I think, out there to deal with because of the addiction factor with it. And basically, from what I've seen on medical websites, they're saying if you are using opioids for, say, pain, for example, say you have a major surgery, and you're given opioids to deal with that pain and recover, they're saying 3 months is the minimum or a general number for a patient to start having addictive issues with that medication. And so the goal, I would think, I don't know how often this happens with doctors, but would be to give you a short-term prescription of opioids for your pain and then knock it down to Tylenol 3 or ibuprofen 800 milligrams or whatever, and to get you out of the painkiller cycle. But 3 months is like the trigger number for seeing opioid addiction issues. Now, if you do have an addiction to opioids of any kind, whether it's heroin or the pain medications, you're looking at 15 months of basically working to get clean and getting out of that cycle and getting your body away from needing and desiring that drug. 15
months for 3 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
So your recovery time for opioid addiction is huge. And because of that, it's just relapse is so common. And a lot of people that have opioid issues generally do better when they're in jail, because you basically do not get your opioids in there. And so you basically will be clean, to be forced to be clean. I'm not saying everybody needs to go to jail, but it's just an example of a way to cut yourself off from your source.
Detox.
And to detox.
Yeah.
And so it's just because of that number, and that's like a generic number. It's not for every single person.
Sure.
But 15 months, think about it, that's a year and 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything that takes a year and 3 months that I'm going to do regularly, and try, and plus you're dealing with the fact that you have an addiction and everything else. So it's really, really difficult.
We have to take a break, okay? Ivan Anderson's in the studio today. He's with the MATForce Speakers Bureau, matforce.org, good website for you. AZDHS.gov, also a great website for you. And we'll be talking about the snoring prevention works also coming up on Countywide. Stick around, we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
So you're looking online now? Yeah, great condition. I hate to see her go, but I really just need the cash. Well, the price is still just $1,000, but you have to send the money now, right now. Well, that's why the price is so low. Like I said, I need cash fast. I can't wait on a check or money order. You have to send cash now.
The moment they ask for immediate cash is the moment you know something's wrong. Think before you send money. Learn more at scamawareness.org.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
Welcome back to Countywide. MATForce Speakers Bureau. Ivan Anderson in the studio today. We're going to be talking about the snoring prevention works a little bit later on the show. MATForce.org is a great website. AZDHS.gov, also a good website. That's where I found the ticker of the opioid deaths and or suspected deaths and overdoses going on in the state right now and how we're keeping track of that. It's a real-time ticker, so it's an alarming number. So we've talked about opioids. We've talked a little bit about meth. We've kind of punch list all of that. That's the issue that's going on, prescription drugs. I don't know how to say that. Naloxone? Naloxone. I was telling Ivan that these stories come up in the news with these medications on them. I just don't know how to say it. But naloxone, also what we've been calling is Narcan.
Yes.
The Narcan pen or whatever it is.
They have three different ways to administer it.
Okay. So what's this all about?
Okay, this is the medication to reverse opioid issues.
If I'm overdosing and Ivan comes to my house and you know I'm overdosing on opioids, heroin, I'm going to meet Mr. Narcan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when we give Narcan to a patient that's overdosing on narcotics or heroin, which are the same thing, this at the cellular level will go to the receptor sites on a cell and kick off the opioids and replace it with the Narcan. And it's immediate. It gets into your system and it just starts working immediately.
It's crazy.
And there's 2 milligrams in here, and each style of administration or of whatever you want to call it, each device to administer Narcan, some comes in a different dose. This is 2 milligrams in here, which is a fair amount. Some come in like 0.4 milligram doses, but no matter how much you give, that person will have that into their bloodstream, and it goes right to those cell sites and kicks off the opioid and replaces it. But the thing is, it stays there. It has a life of, I want to say up to half an hour roughly, and it will stay on that site. The opioid can't go back and get onto that site again, and so it reverses the effect, and it's very quick. Now, depending on how big the person is, depending on what they have taken, how much they've taken, the effects are going to vary. But if your patient, let's say, took a normal dose of heroin for themselves, but maybe it had a little bit of fentanyl in there, and so the effect was more than they normally have, and their breathing rate slowed down, and that's a side effect. That's the overdose component, is their breathing stops. Then if we give them this in the field, we can get their respirations to come back and keep them from just dying right there in front of us.
So if I'm overdosing, I'm dead. Is
Not
that right? Or near death?
Overdose is dependent on the med,
Okay.
or on the drug that you're overdosing on, how much you had, like I said. So if we're using, like, say, we'll just use medications like oxycodone, for example.
Okay.
That can come in like a 30 milligram tablet, which is a pretty large amount of medication. So let's say I take that, I'm 180 pounds, I take 6 of those, that's 180 milligrams of oxycodone, but I don't do it very often. I'm just fooling around for that. I've been drinking too much, and so I pop a whole bunch of those. I have got a lot on board. I'm going to immediately start to get tired. I'm going to fall asleep. I'm going to pass out, basically. My breathing rate's going to start to slow down. The chemical reaction of the opioids is they go to the central nervous system of your brain, and they start to shut down that portion that makes your diaphragm work. And then your breathing rate just starts to basically slow down, and then it'll stop eventually. Hopefully, whoever's in the house with me will notice that I'm having an issue, that I'm turning blue because I'm not breathing, and they call 911. We'll come to that house, EMS will come to the house, give Narcan, and then Narcan will reverse the effects of the oxycodone.
They're teaching police officers with the Narcan as well, aren't they? They have
Yes.
like a supply of that because, I mean, they can be first on scene sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they encounter these people who are, as you described, blue, laying there blue. So I think they're being trained as well.
So Sonoran Prevention Works is another nonprofit that I got involved with. I went to an opioids seminar, or whatever you want to call it, conference down in Phoenix. They are based mostly in Maricopa County, but I got involved with them. The folks at Sonoran Prevention Works, the head gal there, I got in contact with Mary Lee Fowler from MATForce, and they combined their resources together. And now our goal is to, Sonoran Prevention Works basically hands out Narcan and gives trainings on how to administer it.
Okay.
The way we hand it out with Sonoran Prevention Works is different than this type of administration device. You got to draw it up and you give it intramuscular with a needle. You give 0.4 milligrams per dose, and you get 2 doses in this package. The police, the agencies that are choosing to carry this have that type of setup generally. There's other types of devices, like I said, but this is the most common one. It's given with a needle. It's given in the arm or in the leg or wherever, and they can give that to somebody and to intervene before EMS gets on scene.
Kind of a Band-Aid till you get there.
Exactly.
Okay.
It won't cure what's going on, but it will keep them from dying. That's basically the goal.
Oh. A scary situation to be in. I guess it's, and I was asking Ivan during the break too, is that you've got folks that are on opioids and heroin, but then they'll switch to meth because these other 2 drugs, and it's a completely different. You're going up here with meth and you're coming down here with opioids, so it's very strange. We've got to take another break and we'll come back. MATForce Speakers Bureau, Ivan Anderson in studio today, talking about the Sonoran Prevention Works as well as the Speakers Bureau and opioids in general. So stick around, Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
The Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
Hello, Mr. Hopkins. This is Sue from Disaster Relief. We're calling neighbors statewide to get help for storm victims, children, lost parents, homes. You can. Oh, thank you. But could you send the money now? The need is urgent. We so appreciate you. It means so much, but it has to be now. It has to be cash. No credit cards, checks, just cash.
The moment they ask for immediate cash is the moment you know something's wrong. Think before you send money. Learn more at scamawareness.org.
Schools have a big problem. Every year, millions of kids come to class with nothing. So teachers end up spending thousands of dollars of their own money just to make sure kids have what they need to learn. I'm the school supply fairy. My assistant and I do what we can. But we could really use your help.
Welcome back to Countywide. Just a few more minutes left of the program. We want to talk more about the Sonoran Prevention Works, and there's a presentation you give, Ivan, about the Narcan. So, but it's not, as we were just talking during the break, it's not just the police and emergency medical and all that. It's just about anybody.
Right. Sonoran Prevention Works has a PowerPoint presentation that I guess their grant requires that we give this presentation to people who want the kits to administer in the field, and we just hand them out to anybody. We don't care what your background is. You could be just Joe Blow off the street, and if you have a need or think you have a need to, or the ability and will to give this medication to someone who's overdosing, we'll give you this packet. Mm-hmm. But you're required just to have us give you a little bit of training to go with it, obviously, which is a good idea.
How long's the talk?
Like 45 minutes.
Okay.
It's a PowerPoint presentation. We go through the history of what's going on with the state. We talk about requirements and how the state implemented basically the Good Samaritan law, for lack of a better term, regarding physicians, pharmacists, and the layperson regarding Narcan. Narcan is no longer a prescription drug. Anybody can get it. If you come to one of our presentations, we will give you Narcan for free. We have a grant that allows us to accumulate it.
This stuff cheap?
To be honest, I don't have a price off the top of my head.
But I could just buy this over the counter.
Yes.
If I went to a drugstore today, I could buy
this
Narcan that you've got right here.
But it comes in different devices, and the devices you would get, you don't want this one. This is the one we use in pre-hospital, and it requires, well, you can give it either through an IV, which you have to establish an IV, or you can give it up their nose. But the stuff that we hand out is a syringe and a vial. And you have to pull up the medication in a syringe, put it in somebody's arm or in their leg or wherever. There's another device also that just is made, you take the cap off, you put it in their nose, and you just inject it into their nose. That costs a little more, so we don't have that one through our grant, but for ease and convenience, that's the one I recommend if you can get a hold of it. But this presentation is about 45 minutes long. I give it to whoever, wherever. I just did 2 of them in the last 2 weeks, one at VVMC and one in Prescott Valley. And once you've had the presentation and you've done your due diligence with that, if you need Narcan, you can come and get it from us. MATForce now has it at the headquarters in Prescott Valley. And if you come in there and say, hey, I've had the presentation, I'd like to have some more Narcan.
Who do you think should be taking this presentation from you?
Anybody that has family members, people that work at halfway houses, people that own halfway houses, police officers that are interested or their agencies are willing to allow them to do this in the field, people that are using, that are around people that are using as well. We give these presentations to the layperson. We'll give it to anybody no matter where they're at, whether they have an addiction problem. If they do, I would still give this presentation to them and say, hey, look, your end goal is to get off this drug, but to keep you from dying, I'm going to give you this medication to have on you, and maybe you can help somebody else that you're with or whatever. So,
what's the best way to get a hold of you? Through MATForce?
Through MATForce, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, through MATForce, so MATForce.org. Ivan, it was great seeing you.
My pleasure.
Really great to see you again. MATForce Speakers Bureau, Ivan Anderson. Sonoran Prevention Works. MATForce.org, again, is the website. AZDHS.gov, also a great website to go to. This is today's Countywide. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.